Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again, and if you've been pinned under a rock in the wilderness like in 127 hours and only just now got home and the first thing you did was check my YouTube channel, I got some good news for you. There's been a big announcement in the PoE world in the form of 3.9 and 4.0, which is now going to be referred to as Path of Exile 2. It happened over Exilecon about a week ago. Haven't really had a chance to make a video until right about now, and I'm sure you've already seen lots and lots about it and already seen everyone else's hot takes. But I guess I have to throw one out there as well, just to say what I saw over the weekend and what kind of stuff looks promising to me, and just a bit of opinions about the entire ordeal. First of all, yeah, let's talk a bit about PoE 2, which is essentially going to be run alongside PoE currently. So you'll open up your client, only one client, and you'll have a choice between playing the original PoE story, Acts 1 through to 10, or clicking on this one, PoE 2, and managing to play that 7 acts to then meet at the exact same point in maps, and the game re-merges. So it will basically just be an option to play a newer, more polished, more up-to-date and standard system of ARPG. And I do think it looks pretty fucking sweet, and it should potentially be a game changer in our games sort of industry or world, because at the moment it's a bit of an old system, the one we're running with current PoE, and PoE 2 is going to have a pretty big update in the graphics of the game and the smoothness, the playability. People often say Diablo 3 has the smoothest sort of gameplay of any of these games, and PoE is a bit clunky and a bit like just weird, bit slow, bit old, I guess, in the style that it represents at the moment. This one will be just so much more and so much better and so much smoother overall. And it's a big deal that when people first start these games, they first click them, they start from, no actual information of how the game's going to be in the end game. And level 1, you walk around on a beach, you're hitting things with a stick, and if it feels bad, you're just missing things, and it doesn't look all that impressive, and your first boss isn't all that cool or anything, then they're just going to lose interest instantly and walk away. Whereas this feels a lot more like a immersive world. It's a lot smoother to play, and it has some really cool bosses right from the get-go, which are like magnitudes harder than the first few bosses in Act 1 of current PoE, and including the actual sort of act bosses even. Let's say compare a Merveil to any of these, and it's just, there's no comparison. These have so much more polish to them and so much more going on that it's just going to be a pretty big step up in how it introduces people into the game. So I didn't actually get to play too much of the PoE 2 demo. I only ended up playing just a little bit. You would have seen me do on stage for the stream on Exilecon, which was 30 minutes, and it got me to like level 6 or 7 or something. But it does feel like a very different game already. It's very familiar because you already know a lot of the systems, you know, gems and passive trees and your characters, but it feels very different in that it just doesn't feel like the same ARPG. You got just a different world altogether, I feel, and the just graphics and the smoothness of it all is pretty impressive by comparison. And I think we're going to be very pleasantly surprised with how PoE 2 gives us just a completely different thing to do on the acts and leveling system. And in the end, I am a bit worried whether or not they're going to balance it just right for 1 versus 2, to which one's going to be more efficient and get to the end game faster and smoother, because ultimately people will play PoE 2 once or twice, and then if the other one is just so much quicker, better, easier, then they're still just going to go back to playing that one, I feel, because this game's already largely about efficiency and min-maxing, and if it's just better to do the other one, it's just going to be, the thing that a lot of people stick to. So the idea is that they will try and balance it, that you get to maps at around the same time, and it shouldn't be better to pick one or the other. It's just which one you're going to like more, and hopefully this will be the one that you like more because it'll be the freshest and the one they've put the most work into. So for the past few years they have been at the same time when releasing things, skills, microtransactions, all of that, keeping it in mind and making it at the same time in PoE 2. So all of that should integrate seamlessly at the same time to PoE 2 when that's released. And it looks like there's a lot of cool shit coming. Things like these transformations, where cat, where bear, where wolf, and they're just temporary buffs that let you gain a few little stats here or there, or a few bonuses while shape-shifted. And yeah, that's just one of the things that the game was missing at this point compared to a Diablo, and it's now going to be fixed. And other than that, there's a lot of good changes to the skill system, a lot of good changes to how we pick up skills, and the socket system, and socketing into gems instead of into links. And I don't really know what else to say. The boss fights look very cool, and it's slowed the game down a bit to the point where your decisions hopefully matter more, and just all we've seen so far is Act 1. So another 2 to 7, and sounds like there's going to be a lot of cool new bosses. And I think it's just time to then talk more about 3.9. So to sum up real quick before on 4.0, love everything I saw, and I'm pretty excited for it. It'll be out when it's out. Who knows when that is? Maybe in a year, maybe in a year and a half. But yeah, they're trying to make sure it's all working correctly. So as for 3.9, after it being announced, I thought it was kind of cool, and everything looked like it was going to be a nice little step up and progress in our endgame, and that was during Exilecon. It looked kind of cool, but I was overwhelmed with all this new information and new announcements. After taking a bit of a step back, I'm actually really excited for this because it seems like kind of a big deal. We're about to, in 3 weeks or so, get a lot of new content. This is going to shake things up for the end game quite drastically and give us a lot of things to focus on and do, and it's almost here already. So we're getting a whole new end game system. We're scrapping the current Elder Guardians and Shaper Guardians and Shaper and Elder as the end game bosses, and we're going to be getting a whole new set of end game bosses in the form of us former exiles that have killed stuff and the map and been trapped in it, whatever. So there's like 5 new bosses, presumably 4 of them kind of like a guardian, and then 5, the 5th really big one. New loot, new just end game content challenges, new maps all over the place, and instead of starting on the outer edges of the atlas and then coming in, you start in the center and go out, discover more maps, you get more sextant applications. There's quadrants for maps that can be used for sockets and applied to change your maps and make them, more upgradable and all of that. And lots of new loot, new crafting systems, but overall just fun new bosses. And at the same time, we're going to get Metamorph League, which is new league challenge, and lots of new content there too. So after, taking a bit of a step back and realizing this is almost here, there's actually going to be a huge amount of content. We should probably be more excited for 3.9 and the Metamorph League than for 4.0, which is still going to be amazing, good engine rework, and a lot of new graphics and all of that, but that's coming in a year and a half, and it's mostly just for the storyline at the moment anyway. Whereas this is shaking up our endgame content, the same one that we've been playing for a few years now, giving us new bosses, and then Metamorph itself is going to be giving us a lot of new challenging boss fights, and I'm excited for that personally because this really shakes up the boss killing meta in that you won't have static bosses to fight. These will be very dynamic because you'll make a boss with 5 different other bosses in it, and it's going to change skills and rotate through different boss abilities, and you won't ever really know what you're getting next. So it's hard to learn about these boss fights and actually counter them as well as you do with the current boss fights. So for all the excitement over 4.0, I think 3.9 being this realistically close, and also all of what's coming to us in it, it should be a pretty big deal and much more hype at the moment for that system. Not sure what else to say about that. I think all the bosses do look pretty cool that we've seen so far, the little previews and that. The new plus gems are probably the weakest thing about it, just the naming of them. Plus could be a lot better, I'd say, just to get you more excited about it. Plenty of suggestions have been thrown around that are kind of cooler, I think. But the system itself is fine, I think. You get an additional gem for your current supports that you already care about and like. And then, let's just pause that for a second. And then you've also got just something else to grind away towards. Currently, I get my characters to like level 90. And at that point, all of my gems are level 20. There's not too much else to look forward to. I could flip them and get them to 20 quality as well, and then level them up to 20 again. And that'll take me to about level 93. And that's about the point where I usually stop a character, done its endgame content, done its leveling. If I get some support gems plus, and I feel like they're really going to take my character up another bit of a level, I could potentially grind to level 95, 96, and try and min-max my character a bit more. So I think they're a pretty cool system for people that want to work on their character a bit more and fine-tune it just a little more to make it more powerful. So there's a lot coming in just a very short amount of time, and just to go over it real quick over here, we got Conquerors of the Atlas. Guardian Elder goes away, and it's just Exiles, 5 new sort of bosses at the end, and a whole new system to get to them. You'll have, as they say, 5 new endgame bosses, new powerful class of support gem, a whole rework of bows, new items, Metamorph, Challenge League, and more. So it should be a very, very big update for us. A couple of screenshots here or there. Bosses look very cool and just aesthetic, I guess we could say. Plenty of new mechanics and new boss fights for us to learn, and possibly the new endgame boss, something like that, who knows. And then there's going to be also something that's kind of a big deal, a big bow rework. So they're reworking just a lot of the way bow gems are going to work, and maybe adding a few new ones as well in the form of ballistas, which are just a new way of calling range attack totems. And as well as that siege ballista, stuff like that got changed into different skill gems, and you'll be able to attach all kinds of ballistas to all kinds of range attack things and just customize your own bow ballistas. But whole big bow rework, and it looks like it's going to be pretty damn apparent of a bow meta this league. So your bow items are probably going to cost a lot, but the bow builds are probably going to feel very good. There's a lot of new support gems coming out. Something I'm a big fan of is turning the barrage skill into the barrage support, because currently it's pretty damn hard to beat barrage as a single target if you just scale it appropriately. Now you can just turn whatever attack you want into a barrage attack, and that'll probably open up a lot of new bow skills as just single target options by slapping barrage onto it, and then using your burning arrows, your lightning arrows, your fucking whatever else's arrows, and just barraging them, and it should be a lot of fun to play around with this stuff. But the siege ballistas, or the ballistas themselves, there was a preview of it as well, actually look really cool and really fun. I'm not a big fan of totems, but they're going to be slapped down and activated a lot quicker than usual, just to make things a bit smoother. And the themes for them look pretty damn fun, and getting lots of them going should be pretty damn cool as well. So ballistas, I'm actually a bit of a fan of, and you should be able to get them very early on to help out your character throughout the early game too. Powerful new items, Metamorph League, so it's going to be a big deal, I think. Lots of new items and ways to craft them, so exalted orbs that add certain properties from certain different types of, what do you call them, Conquerors. And then the Support Gem Plus and the Atlas. You can then upgrade your entire Atlas throughout the new mechanic however you like. And one of the things they did is change the way sextants are going to work. So they're going to work on certain quadrants instead of just like a circle. And I think that's a pretty damn good thing because you should be able to make much better use of your sextants. I currently don't really use them that much because they do feel a bit awkward and they force you into certain maps for just a few maps, and it does feel a bit awkward, and I don't really like doing them too much. Then you can do these sort of sockets here or there by beating the guardians, socketing it in, and then changing your entire quadrant, but you can also apply sextants to the entire quadrants. So it seems like a good system, and I'm not sure what else to say. Just a lot of excitement there, and I think it should be a big deal for our game in a few weeks' time and bring in a lot of people. It certainly looks a lot more hype than the previous thing, which was Blight League. So to quickly go over Metamorph League, which is coming with the 3.9 update, which will be replacing Blight League. So you can start again in Metamorph League from level 1 and join everyone on a fresh economy. It will be just you run around, you kill stuff, you pick up these little, I don't know, pieces of the monsters you kill, shove them into a vat, combine them, and you will spawn some new I don't know, boss, metamorph, something like that, and then fight it as it changes from one to another, and it should be a little bit of an extra challenge, which for me personally, fighting a one-on-one sort of tough enemy is the large draw of this game, getting to test my skills and outplay an enemy, and one that's going to be, like I said, a bit more dynamic in what it does. Hopefully is going to be a good challenge and has some good rewards and will be exciting. But as always, most of these league mechanics do have plenty of bugs and plenty of drawbacks, so we'll have to wait and see. But 3.9 itself, just the big update, should be enough to get you back into the game. And if you want to ignore a league mechanic, as always, you kinda can. The rewards are going to be just getting quality onto your jewelry and enhancing certain properties of that jewelry. By 20% at best, but you can focus more on one property like life and mana on a certain item and enhancing that by 20%, or resist and enhancing that by 20%. So it's just a little bit of power creep, but in a fun little way. And then yeah, lots of big endgame metamorphosis bosses. And then lastly, I'll have a quick look at what was the final announcement at Exilecon, and that is PoE Mobile. It was a fun little announcement that kind of seemed like a meme, kind of seemed like a joke, but in the end, wasn't. When we were sitting there, we were just like looking at this going, haha, good one, guys, that's funny. And then it kept going and we were like, oh, shit, it's real? Okay. And that's fine, honestly. I'm not a mobile gamer. I haven't played mobile stuff in years because I don't really have the need to. Rarely am I ever traveling or doing idle tasks where I can just sit there and play with my mobile or games, so I'd leave all my gaming to actual PC and all that. But I don't care if there's a mobile game out, then it doesn't affect me. And this was, as I mentioned in my Diablo video, the right way of doing it. You announce all your cool shit, all the new stuff you're working on and all the exciting stuff, and then throw in a mobile game and say, hey, if you want it, here it is, the option's there. That is completely fine, right? Some people that might want it or that can take advantage of it will. Those that don't and don't really care, just leave it alone, ignore it. And if that's how Diablo Immortal worked, with Diablo 4 being announced before it, I think it would have been totally fine. Now it's seen as just a giant meme. And yeah, if there isn't going to be any crossover where they're going to build more on the current version towards mobile or keep mobile in mind when doing these changes, it's totally fine, and I don't think they will be doing that. It's just an afterthought, giving you an option if it's there, if they end up making it polished enough and then releasing it, because it's still not even a concrete thing to be released just yet. So that's basically it for that. We can go ahead and skip to a bit of my playthrough in 4.0. But yeah, that's essentially it for the announcements that I spent over in Exilecon. Didn't really get a chance to play around too much with the new stuff. I was pretty busy the entire weekend, but 4.0 I think is just visually amazing, and it feels like a bit of a different game, but it also feels very familiar, and I think everyone that tries it when it comes out in beta will be very pleasantly surprised, and it's a good step in the right direction. But for now, we've got a just big update coming in a few weeks of 3.9. It's going to shake up quite a lot of the meta, I assume, and as well as that, there'll be a lot of new stuff for us to figure out in crafting, farming, and just min-maxing against the Metamorph League. Hope you guys are fucking excited. Hope you guys are pretty fucking excited for all of that. I know I certainly am. Sorry about having a really slow release on this video and this sort of announcement, but you've seen everyone else's hot takes, and there's nothing too new from me anyway. I'm excited. I think Path of Exile is looking pretty good for the next few years. And yeah, I was happy to be a part of the announcements or just be there and help out with a little bit of a stream demo as well as a panel. So thank you very much for the support over the years and at Exilecon. I hope you guys are as excited as I am for all this shit, and I'll see you next time.